Change doesn't hold because behavior is downstream of being. Your strategies only work as well as the state you bring to them. Welcome to the Connect Method Parenting Podcast, where correction is out, connection is in, and your kids want to listen to you. I'm Andy Martineau, creator of Connect Method Parenting, here to help you stay calm, confident, and connected no matter what. Hey, everybody. How are you? Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're going after a biggie: how to transform your parenting from the inside out. Not add 5 new tactics and hope for the best, but the kind of change that lasts because it starts with who you are being. And if you're wondering why this matters, it's because you've probably read all the books, you've watched the reels, you've tried the charts, and still so many days end in you thinking, why did I yell again? Why did I resort to giving a consequence that was a little punitive? Why did I get so frustrated with my kids? This is for you. And most advice says, okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to change what you do to get what you want. When we stack do better, do different on an overloaded system and a stressed out identity, where we believe I'm just a yeller, or I lose my mind, I'm not very connected, I'm not very patient, I'm not very organized, I'm not very calm, or my kids never listen, they're out of control. Even though you might get tiny blips of change by trying to do better, the change doesn't hold because behavior is downstream of being. In Connect Method Parenting, we say your strategies only work as well as the state you bring to them. Let me say that again. The strategies, the things you do, only work as well as the emotional, mental, physical state that you bring to them. And I've heard so many parents, and I've used this myself, saying, I promised myself no yelling, no getting frustrated tonight. Be calm. Don't do that thing again. But then dinner runs late, or the toddler refuses the chicken you made. Your 3-year-old pees over the couch, makes a big mess. Your teenager mutters, ugh, why are we having that for dinner again? Or refuses to clear their dish, and your body surges. The trigger kicks in. The intention you had not to yell or lose your cool, not get frustrated, which was your resolve to do something different, gets steamrolled by an overwhelmed being. The state that you are in, the way you are being. It's not a moral failure. It's really just mechanics. It's trying to do something different before you are about to be someone different. Inside out solves the levels where change actually sticks. Meaning, if we start with who we are being, then the doing happens much easier. It's the fruit of being. Most of us secretly run this program, or this is the operating system where we try to function on. We've been taught to function on. It's have, do, be. So if I had more sleep, or if I had more time, I'd do the routines, or I'd show up better, and then I'd be a calm parent. But it rarely works because time wasn't the real limiter. Capacity and identity are. So we need to try this instead. Be, do, have. Be who I am choosing to be in the moment, calm, connected, committed. Do the actions from that state. So what are you going to do? I'm going to lower my voice. I'm going to get curious. I'm going to set a kind, connected limit. And then have. That's what shows up. Safety, cooperation, repair, trust. So what's the being that would make the doing almost inevitable? Let's do bedtime for an example. If the being, or who I was being inside, what I was believing about myself was I'm the compassionate alpha. I'm the mom who can have firm limits, but be very kind as well. I'm warm and I'm in charge. Then I can do the actions that are required at bedtime much better. I can have the lights off by 5. I can rub the kids' backs. I can sing 2 songs. I can read them a story. I can navigate them coming out of their room if that's what's happening in a more embodied, compassionate alpha way, because that's who I'm being. when I'm doing the things. And then I have less frustration, more settling, less bargaining, less irritation. I handle the things so much better because I get to have all of those things as a result of who I am being. And who I am being, that emotional state I'm being, is fueling my doing or my actions. And then I have this new reality. So let's go through the morning rush example that we all have felt, right? This need to get our kids to where they need to get to feed them, to get ourselves where we need to get to make sure everyone's looking appropriate. If I am being, or what I am thinking and feeling is I have the ability to stay calm under pressure, then all the actions, all of the things that need to happen, getting everybody's backpacks ready, the water bottles filled, the lunches made, all of that doing happens as a result of who I am being. It's fueled by who I'm being. And then I have fewer standoffs, smoother exits. We feel like we're working together as a team. I'm not getting frustrated like I was. And if I am, I'm circling back to calm because I feel confident. All right, here's another favorite, screen time shutdown. We all have felt this from one time to another if you have a child. The drive to do the electronic games on the phones or on the gaming devices, it's real, it's strong, and it can be very triggering for us. So if the state I am bringing to that situation, who I am believing I am, what I am feeling, what I am thinking is I'm warm, I'm in charge, limits are love, I've got this, I know I am doing this is out of service, then the doing, which is going to happen when the timer goes off and I have to ask them to get off their electronics, is going to happen so much better. I can say, okay, last level now, we're going to turn it off, want to piggyback right to the door, walk together. I'm able to lean into the actions in such a different way than if I was trying to do the actions to feel like I was in charge, which is what we typically do. We usually think, okay, I got to do the thing, and then I'm going to have less arguing, and then I'm going to be that warm, in charge mother. But we're flipping this all around. It's about who we're being first and foremost. So I'm warm, I'm in charge, limits are love, I've got this, I feel confident. Now that's fueling the doing or the actions, turning the electronics off, setting that limit, engaging with them to get them to think about something else. And then I have less arguing, faster transitions, trust is preserved, and I feel like I can respect the person I'm being. Identity is the self-image your brain runs when you're not thinking about it. It's the autopilot your body reaches for when the emotions spike. So if in the quiet identity, you're thinking, I'm always behind, or my kids are really hard, then your nervous system organizes around that identity and tries to prove that to be true. That's why you find yourself snapping, rushing, lecturing, issuing ultimatums, all of the things you don't want to do that you know better, but you can't do better. The good news is that your identity or who you're being isn't something you can't change. It's not fixed. It's not set in stone. It's something that we have learned along the way. And thank goodness, because that means we can shift it. I look back on who I was being as a parent when my kids were little. I had 6 kids under 8, and I was a utter mess, maxed out, stressed out, frustrated, trying to be perfect at all the things and not being perfect at anything. And I had the identity that I was a mess. I was not a good person. I was not a good parent. I was not very compassionate. I wasn't a good leader. Nobody listened to me. I had a lot of messy thoughts about my identity, non-productive, you could say. And over a few years, I was able to start to shift those. I still work on this because it's an ever-evolving thing, but shift my identity. So here's how I did it, how I teach the moms I work with how to do it. It's a process. I'm going to lay it out really simply. It's something that does require some time because our brains need to create new neural pathways, and it takes some time and there's some work. But let me just lay it out in a very clear, understandable way. First, we got to decide who we want to be. If we aren't conscious about this, we're just going to keep doing the old the old thoughts over and over. They're going to loop, loop, loop. And that's who your identity is going to be. You're going to keep reinforcing it. And the neural pathway is going to get stronger and deeper. And the groove's going to get so entrenched that's going to be harder and harder to get out. It's never too late, but without ever shifting it, it's not going to shift. So we've got to start having an intentional shift in who we want to be as a parent. So we've got to start to declare that. We've got to start to think about that. So naming the kind of parent that we are, even if we're not that way today, I want you to think into the future and say, this is the kind of parent I am. I'm the compassionate alpha parent. I'm the steady leader in my home. I'm the kind of parent who listens first. I'm the kind of parent who has so much compassion, but is also very firm and sturdy. So take a second. Who is that version of you in the future? That version of you as a parent that you want to be. Who are you becoming? Your thoughts, your emotions. What are you going to be thinking and feeling? In the paradigm I'm explaining today, it's be, do, have. So who are you being? Say that in one simple sentence. Now, how do we get ourselves to actually believe it? Because a mantra doesn't work, a thought doesn't work, a new belief doesn't work just because we state it. I wish it was that easy. If it was that easy, then we would be shifting very quickly, but it's not. But we do have to have a direction we're heading, like a destination on the map. So declare that. Name the parent you're becoming. Name the parent you are in the future. And then I want you to start collecting micro evidence every day. Write it down. Start a list. There are going to be a few times at least, probably a lot of times, but at least a few times where you are going to be in alignment with that way of being. Maybe you took a calm breath before you answered. Maybe you looked at your kids in the eyes and you established a working relationship instead of going right into lecture mode. Maybe you were so tempted to give an ultimatum, to give a punitive consequence, but you didn't. You set the clear limit without yelling and you were compassionate. Write that down. You don't have to force new behavior. It flows from who you're being. And so when that identity shifts, the doing gets lighter. So let's say your teenager rolls their eyes at you and your old identity slips in and says, that's disrespect. I need to clamp down. But then you say, oh, no. My new identity is curiosity first. That's who I am becoming as a parent. That's who I am in the future. So you breathe, you soften your shoulders and you ask, rough day? And the story shifts, not because your child changed. They're still rolling their eyes. They're still having their attitude. It changes because you did. Your way of being in that situation changed. Let's say your child groans at their math homework and your old identity pops up and says, lazy. I have to push them harder. I've got to be on them. They don't want to work at all. And then you say, wait. The new identity pops up and you say, no. I'm the parent who supports, not shames. So you pull up a chair and you say something like, hey, I'll hang out with you while you figure this out. Can I help you? Do you need a snack? And you support. And that replaces the struggle. Or at bedtime, your kids are stalling. They're asking for more water. They need another story. Or your teenager's just telling you that they're not tired yet and they want to watch another show. And your old identity would think, oh, I can't handle this chaos. I'm failing. Or maybe it's the kids are not cooperative. They're really challenging. And then you remind yourself, okay, no. What's the new identity? Who am I going to be? Who am I going to be in this moment in the future? Oh, I'm a calm guide. I'm confident. I've got this. So you kneel down and you say, hey, lights off in 5. Want a back rub or a story first? And you hold the firm limit. The structure holds, but the connection leads. Now, the shift doesn't happen in one giant leap. It happens in a dozen or 500 dozen ordinary 20-second reps where you choose the new default parenting mode, the new way of being over the old way of being. But every time you do this and you can collect one piece of micro evidence, you're telling your nervous system, this is who I am now. This is where I am coming from. This is who I am being in this moment. Think of a pyramid, like the food pyramid. You know how it has the things you're supposed to eat the most of at the bottom, and then the next level or layer tells you what you should have a little bit less of, and then to the very top, which is the things you should have the least of, which I think in the food pyramid is probably sugar at the top. I don't know. That's my guess. I haven't looked at the food pyramid in a long time, but just as a visualization. Okay, so we're going to use that same diagram. Think of it in your head, and at the very bottom level is attachment. This is the foundation under it all, the invisible fuel, connection, safety, belonging. And then on top of that, I want you to label as identity. This is the role that you are claiming, who you are being, what you believe about yourself. So I am a calm, connected leader in my home. I'm the compassionate alpha. I have the solution. What is the identity that you have about yourself as the parent to your children? And then next level up, beliefs. This is the lens through which you see everything. So is it my children are being challenging and they're hard, or I don't know what I'm doing? Or is it my child is showing me a need, not a problem? Behavior is information. Everything is fine. Then next level up, skills. These are your tools. These are the things that you are going to pull from in the moment. You're going to repair after you blow up. You're going to set warm limits. You're going to do the stop, drop, and roll. If you've heard me talk about that, I think I've talked about it on the podcast, where you're slowing down and you're connecting with your child before you decide what to do next. Seen and heard is another great tool. If you worked with me or if you've read my book, you've listened to me explain the seen and heard, but it's a way to choose closeness in the heat of the moment. I give very practical tools about setting limits, giving directions, play, some specific. So those are tools in your tool set, or connection plans would be another one. What else? Doing a daily awareness work. That would be that wouldn't be a skill. It could be a skill. It could be a tool. Then one layer up, behavior. This is what comes out in the moment. The stop, give it back, the lecture, the warm connected limit, the deep breath, the hug. Can be good or bad. And then we have the environment. This is the surface stuff, the messy kitchen, the siblings fighting, the bedtime stalling. Okay, here's why this matters. Most parents get stuck at the top of the triangle. They're trying to rearrange the environment, clean the kitchen, force the kids to say sorry, rustle the kids into pajamas, get the kids to lay in their beds or eat their dinner or do their homework, or clamp down on behavior. That's the second from the top, saying stop it right now. But if the foundational layers start to shift, the attachment, which is the foundation for all of it, the invisible fuel, the connection, safety, belonging, which is, to me, most important than everything, and the identity, which is very important. They're almost enmeshed. I separated them to explain them a little bit better, but to me, if we have the attachment in alignment, then our identity is probably in alignment with the idea that attachment is the preeminent need, because then our identity is so impacted by who we are being, because we know that connection is more important than everything else. So those two things, if they're in alignment, then the beliefs, the thoughts we have about ourselves, about our kids, they're going to be impacted, and it's going to shift everything. But if the foundational layers, we are not focusing on attachment, we don't realize how we might be even disconnecting from our kids with the lectures and the way we're setting limits. If our identity about ourselves or our kids are off, if our beliefs about our kids are off, they're not aligned, then the next layer up is skills. And it doesn't matter how great of skills we have, they're going to fall flat. And the behavior and the environment are going to keep flaring up. But when you shift at the bottom, everything above changes. Because identity drives how you show up. Beliefs shape how you interpret behavior, and from there, the skills will land with warmth and authority instead of fear and frustration. They're going to be fueled by confidence and compassion and empathy and service, which will shift the behavior and will eventually transform the environment. So if the environment is the kids are fighting, they're having a tug of war over a toy, and the old path was to go into saying something like, share it now, and it turned into a power struggle. If we switch this around and we look at this from the inside out path, from the be, do, have paradigm, then the identity would first need to shift. So if my belief was, I am a steady leader, I am confident, I know what I'm doing, I believe that this behavior is just information, then it's going to change everything. So the identity is, I got this. I'm a steady, confident, compassionate alpha leader. My belief is this is information. This behavior is just telling me what's going on in their nervous system. Then the skills I have to intervene, to say something, to go connect with my kids and set that firm limit is going to be so different. Even if I'm saying the same words and doing the same actions, When I come in believing I got this is just information, and I say something, which is the skill set, coming in and intervening. Hey, both of you, I know you both want the fire truck, but I'm going to hold it until we figure this out. And the energy or the way I am being as I say those words is fueled by compassion and confidence and empathy. Then the result or the environment starts to change. Fewer explosions, more learning, calmer limits. The attachment fuel line starts to shift everything. That stays open. We stay connected. When you yell, it's not because something's wrong. It's just because your nervous system is overloaded. Your body's trying to keep you safe. The inside out transformation builds capacity and uses connection first tools. So, how do we do that? Here's some really simple ways. One, we can start exhaling longer than we inhale. This downshifts fight or flight. You can also name your state. Hey, I feel the emotion in my chest. I feel heat in my chest. Hello, anger. There you are, anger. We can orient. We can look at the room and say, yeah, here I am. We're safe. We're in this room. This room is safe. I don't need to be afraid. Everything's okay. We can start softening our jaw, our shoulders, feel our feet in the ground, relax our body, take a deep breath, then let connection lead. I want to interrupt this episode to tell you about the No Yell Workshop. It's a 2-hour workshop for just $7, 100% money back guarantee, where I'm going to teach you the biology behind why we yell and exactly what to do about it so that you can stop yelling for good. Join me on September 25th at noon Eastern, or catch the replay if you can't make it live. You're going to walk away with real knowledge and a customized plan you can start using right away. Go to cmp.works/yell to grab your spot. I'll put the link in the show notes. This is going to be the best 2 hours you spend on parenting. I can't wait to see you there. Now, back to the episode. Okay? So let's say that you spot a crumpled piece of paper in the corner, and you go over and you open it up and you realize that it's your teenager's homework that they've just thrown in the corner. They were trying to not have to do it. Maybe they're just frustrated. And your old reflex would be to lecture. But when you go from a place of capacity first, when you believe, hey, there's a reason why they did this. I just want to get to the bottom of it. I know they're being challenging. This is not what I wanted to do today, figure out what's going on with my teen, but let's just work this through. And you come from capacity first, then maybe you do that long exhale. You exhale twice as long as you inhale. And then you ask yourself, where do I want to start? What do I want to create right now with my child? What do I think is going on with my child? What does my child need? What would be of service to my child? This doesn't mean you go passive and let everything go off the wayside. Maybe they need a firm limit. Maybe they need a redirection. But you won't know unless you come with that kind of energy. And when you come with that kind of energy, same situation, teenager who has tossed their homework aside, crumpled up an important math paper, same situation, new nervous system, better outcome. All right, are we starting to get this? The difference that this began to make inside of me when I got this new pattern of it's important. First and foremost, who I am being, then what I'm doing, then what I'm having. That's the order of events, not I need to do something to have something so I can be something. Here's the old pattern. If I do a stronger consequence, I'll have compliance, then I'll be calm. But the new pattern is B, I'm the compassionate alpha. I can handle this. That's who I'm being. Then I can do the actions. I can kneel down. I can get on eye level. I can say, hey, backpacks belong on the hooks. I'll walk with you. And then I have fewer fireworks, faster follow through, more relationship credit. No, it won't work every time. Yes, it will create a home where cooperation does grow, where you respect the person you're being. Okay? You don't willpower your way to new parenting. You practice tiny reps in real moments. One breath before you speak, one connection before you have to set a limit, one clear limit and then stay with whatever big feelings might show up with your child. Repetition is what's going to rewire your nervous system. Identity updates quietly. It looks like, oh, this is who I am now. This is who I am now. Wow, this is what I believe now. Now, when you hit resistance, and you will, you're going to hear that little critic inside your head say, see, you blew it. This is not something you're capable of doing. You're not cut out for this. Instead, I want you to try to notice, normalize, and then take the next step. So notice what's going on in your body. There's my shame spiral happening again. Normalize it by saying, this is what humans do. I'm learning. I'm getting better every day. I have a lot more awareness than I had last week. And then what's the next step? Choose one thing that will get you a little closer to that goal. It could be a skill. It could be calming your nervous system down. It could just be saying, hey, this is fine. Like, we don't need to beat ourselves up over this. I had to make a very intentional effort. When I first started this, my next step almost every time was to just not beat myself up. I was so hard on myself. I didn't have any room for mistakes, and it kept my nervous system triggered constantly because every time I made a mistake, which was hundreds of times every day, I would beat myself up, then my nervous system would get triggered and I would do it again. So for me, this interruption tool was everything. To interrupt myself and say, oh, there's the shame cycle. This is what humans do. I'm learning. And I'm not going to beat myself up. That was my notice, normalize, next step. Instead of staying stuck in shame or overwhelm, we use the notice, normalize, next step to calm ourselves down and stop being stuck in these old cycles. It's not a big reset. It's a tiny state shifter that makes all of the difference. All of the difference. We don't need the big moments, although they happen. All of a sudden, something big will happen and you'll notice yourself shift, and that's beautiful and glorious, and I hope it happens to you over and over again. However, these tiny, tiny shifts, the micro shifts of just deciding not to beat yourself up when you mess up are huge, huge. So if the kids aren't buckling up, and that's just so infuriating to you, if in that moment you just whisper to yourself, hey, pause, take a breath. This is what's happening right now. This is okay. You know what you're doing, and you avoid the meltdown. That's huge. Huge. Most parents are on a never-ending scavenger hunt for the perfect tactic, or maybe the perfect script, what to say in this moment, or the perfect consequence, the perfect reward, or the perfect chart, or the one sentence that finally gets the kids to listen. But even the most brilliant tool falls flat if it's used from a stressed, disconnected state. It's like planting seeds in concrete. It won't work. What changes everything is you, the parent you're being. When you choose to show up as the compassionate alpha, the calm, warm, confident parent who's in charge, things will begin to shift for you. Remember, the sequence is be, do, have. Be the parent you want to be. Do the actions that are in alignment with who you want to be, and then you will have the results you've been dreaming of. And then you will have the results you're dreaming of. It's not about stacking more strategies. It's about letting your state, who you are being, empower the strategies that you already know, the ones that you learn, that are aligned to who you want to be. That's what matters. When you focus on being first, the doing gets lighter and the having flows naturally. And this is why in Connect with Parenting, the first CMP strategy is understand yourself, your behavior, your emotions. Understand yourself so you can leave room for your kids. You got to understand your own behavior so you can leave room for theirs, is the way I say it in a more poetic way. But basically, it's you got to have awareness around what's going on with your nervous system and your triggers and who you're being, what you're feeling, and the emotional fuel that's flavoring all of the things you do that are creating all of the results in your life. That's where we have to start. That is where we have to start. So let's put this into action before we wrap up the episode today. Listening to this episode is great, but transformation happens when you pause, when you reflect, when you put things into practice. So grab a notebook or the Notes app on your phone and spend a few minutes answering these questions. I want you to write the sentence that describes the parent you're choosing to become. Write it in present tense, even if it stretches you. So for example, you might say, I'm a calm and connected leader in my home. I listen before I do anything else. I'm steady, even when my kids have big emotions. Behavior is information. I am the compassionate alpha. Whatever resonates with you. What is one clear line that describes the parent you are becoming or that you are? Maybe not today, but that's who you are. Deep down, underneath all the triggers, that's who you are. After you've written the one sentence that describes the parent you're becoming, I want you to write one belief about you and one belief about your child that needs an upgrade. I want you to catch the quiet storyline. So go from he never listens to he listens when he feels safe. Go from she's always dramatic to her feelings are a sign of her big heart. Go from I'm just a yeller to I'm a parent learning steadiness. And finally, what's one micro piece of evidence that you can collect today that this is who you're becoming? Maybe you paused instead of jumping right into lecture mode. Maybe you looked at your child in the eye before you gave them a limit. Just write down something, anything that helps your brain see that this is who you're becoming. And if you find multiple things, write them all down and keep writing them down because your brain believes what you repeat and what you record. So naming, upgrading, and tracking teaches your nervous system that this is who you are now. Parenting transformation isn't about becoming a different family. It's about becoming a different you inside the exact same family, because once you start changing, the shift that happens inside of you starts rippling through every bedtime, through every meltdown, through every ordinary Tuesday afternoon at 2. It changes everything. And remember, you're not walking this road alone. Thousands of parents are learning these tools right alongside you. They're listening to this podcast. They're working with me inside of Pivot or CMP Mastery, and I am cheering for you every step of the way. No matter where you're engaging with me, know that I am here for you. I am thinking about you. I am so appreciative of you. I'm loving you. I see the work that you're doing, and I applaud you. Bravo for showing up for yourself and your kids. I'm here for you. I'll talk to you all soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Go connect your face off with your kids. See you all soon. Bye, guys. If you enjoyed this episode, you're going to want to check out the 8-week parenting pivot, which is the first phase of my program, the League of Extraordinarily Connected Parents. We're opening up a new round in October. So if you're listening to this live, it's going to be October 7th. If you're listening to this and that date has passed, go check out the website, connectmethodparenting.com, and we'll list the next time we're opening. But if you're listening to this live, go check it out because you can already apply and get accepted into the next round so that you can lock yourself in place to have a huge shift with your kids, to get them to want to listen to you, which is very different than using punishments, rewards, timeouts, ultimatums to get them to listen to you. We want it to be more cooperative. We want better listening. We want a great relationship, and we want to have a ton of fun when we're parenting. So if that's what you want, if what I talked about in this episode resonated, jump over to cmp.works/pivot. I'll put the link in the show notes as well, and find out more about the pivot, apply to join, and we'll let you know if you get in. All right. Until next time, go connect with your kids, have a blast, and pop back in for another episode soon about how to use connection, not correction, to get your kids to want to listen to you. See you later. Bye.